Welcome again to the Ref Show. Where is the next generation of match officials in England? Is there a succession plan? Are we spotting any good up-and-coming Football League officials? Well, on an international break weekend, it's an opportunity to look at some performances in Leagues 1 and 2. There's an idea, more than an idea, because they're actually trialling it in Italy, of showing a green card, adding an extra card to a referee's armoury, not just red and yellow, but a green card for good behaviour. Mark Halsey, David Hirst, I'll be awarding you smiley badges next, won't I?
Hey, listen, let's move on. Next subject, shall we? Hey, next subject.
Straight away.
Well, you never get issued in the Premier League, will you?
I'll tell you what, we will talk about this and the idea behind it in the second half of the show. I'm getting the feeling there isn't a great deal of support for it. Let's start with Wales 0, Israel 0. Wales on the brink of qualification for the European Championships would have qualified already, perhaps, had the officials been doing their jobs, Mark. Those behind the goal, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to ask what's he doing. You know, he's got to come back and say, ask him, why is that not a penalty? If it's not a penalty, it's got to be a goal kick.
This is the handball incident where they should have clearly have.
Well, he's looking. He's got the best view in the house. I mean, the referee's not going to see that from where he is. Let's be fair. But that's what they're there for, to assist the referee in those decisions. And it's a clear handball. It's a clear handball, and it should have been a penalty. And I would imagine the observer he would get down marked on that incident from the observer.
Down marked. What would become the referee instead of the extra official? I mean, what is the point in having them?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a perfect situation for the man to stamp his authority on the game as an official, and like you say, he bottles it. And I just can't understand how it goes for a corner.
But we see it time.
It gives a corner and not a goal kick. If it's a corner, it must have been a handball. So it's a penalty, and Wales are through.
Have you known any instances of these extra officials actually
I've actually applied
off?
to be one of those extra officials, because that's got to be the easiest job in the world. You don't have to make a decision. You know, you can hide behind the referee. You know, it's absolute ludicrous that the fact that they're on there, and I've said it before, you know, and don't seem to have any officiating to do. You know, they're just there as a fifth official, if you like.
I've got to say, I've got to give...
You do a bit of goal hanging in your time, didn't you?
Well, on the crossbar,
I could have probably sat and talked to him and kept him busy if they'd done it in my day. But no, I find it crazy. I mean, these guys are probably well paid, you know, so they've got to make those decisions. I mean, that could be a big decision on Wales against Wales.
Should still qualify. Isn't it $2,500 a game or something?
I think they get somewhere in that in euros, but you know. We see it time and time again, don't we?
£2,500 a game.
But we see it time and time again.
I want 4 games a week.
We see it in the Champions League. I could do with some as well, coming back out of retirement. We see it in the Champions League. We see it in the Europa League, where these officials just don't get involved. I mean, I remember watching a game. I think it was a couple of seasons ago, involving Martin Atkinson, and the goal line official was Mike Jones. And this ball's come across. All of a sudden, Martin Atkinson's given a penalty, and everybody's going, what on earth is that for? And even me, I was saying, what's he given there? What's he given there? And then when it showed it from Mike Jones' angle, it was a clear handball. Yeah. Clear handball. So it was a great decision. Yeah. And that's what they're there for, and that's what you want to see more often. But going back to Wales, I think I think, God bless him, Gary Speed started a legacy. And I think Gary be looking up there saying to Chris, come on, Chris, finish it off for me, please, because, you know, they've been tremendous. I think they're higher in England in the rankings. Yeah. I think they've conceded 2 goals in the last 8 games. And I think you know, everyone's talking about Gareth Bale and what a great player he is. But I think if you look at their run, I mean, sort of they've been unbeaten in 8 or 9 games. Yeah. Ashley Williams at the back has been absolutely commanding. He's been in great form for Swansea, you know, and to play for Swansea and come and play at Cardiff, it goes to show that all, you know, even the Cardiff fans love him as well. But you know, it's fantastic, and I think Wales can be very proud of what they're achieving at the present. Yeah.
Great point, well made as well about Gary Speed there.
I mean, I still look at his picture. I still think of him because I was a good friend of Gary's, and you just. Oh, I don't know. No, I can't. And as I say, speaking to Sam Ricketts, when he was involved in the Welsh squad, he said they absolutely loved Gary. They loved him to bits. So let's hope I think they will going to get there, and hope
Yeah, they could have been there now.
They could have been if it weren't for the referees.
Bad officiating.
So it's just not in the Premier League we've known about referees.
As for the extra officials, well, you know, a bit of a waste of time and money in most instances, and let's get the goal line technology.
Well, not if they're brave. Not if they're brave and you know, assist the referee, and that's why they're there.
But that's where the referee, I mean, he's got to expect them to make them decisions.
Absolutely.
Like you say, he's a little bit on the blind side.
Yeah, he was.
The extra official, he sat there looking at it, he should stand up and be counted at that time.
Football League over the weekend, Leagues 1 and 2. We saw a smattering of it, didn't we? You know, in the lower leagues, I saw a game. And I don't know, do you feel that there are enough good prospects coming through at that level, because this select group needs strengthening at some time?
Yeah, I think there is a few out there in the development group, and hopefully, you know, next season when they bring in the professional referees for the Championship, I think that will stand them in good stead to move up into the select group, into the Premier League.
People like Paul Tierney and Robert Madeley's.
Yeah, and Andrew Madley, Steve Martin as well. You know, there's a few good ones out there. So let's hope that you know, they get a few games under their belt as the season goes on. I mean, too early to give them 2 or 3 games. Let them get into the season and then bring them in.
Okay, a bit of a spotlight on 1 or 2 at the weekend. Obviously, there was Simon Hooper was on a televised game, a lunchtime game. I actually watched a bit of this. This was Southend winning at home to Peterborough by 2-1. And what struck me in this was what I thought was a horrendous challenge. This is just my layman's point of view. This was by Southend's Michael Timlin, totally out of control over the ball, hurtling, caught the opponent, and he didn't even get so much as a yellow card. I thought it was a red.
Referee Simon Hooper.
Simon Hooper.
Yes, it seems that Simon's going through a bit of a dodgy period, a dodgy patch. And as you quite rightly say, you know, he's got to look at the challenge, he's got to recognise the challenge. You know, is it endangering the player's safety with excessive force? At speed, was he out of control, just like he used to be when he made challenges? But
used to be.
But
particularly those when you were running back around the halfway line, running back.
But you've got to say, you know, his recognition of that offence wasn't what it should have been.
But let's hope that he learns from that. That's the main thing. I mean, I've always said it, referees are going to make mistakes. You know, as long as they learn from those mistakes, that's going to push them forward.
And it goes on to his coach as well, and I believe it's Alan Wiley. Alan Wiley would have, you know, looked at him. I believe he was at the Norwich game where he had an indifferent performance. Then he had Queen's Park Rangers and Cardiff where I think he made a couple of key match errors. So you know, it's a good learning point for him. Alan will sit down with him, go through these DVDs and just look at him, look at his positioning, look at his fitness, perhaps get him a little bit fitter, lose a little bit more weight, and you know, and it's all about recognition of offences.
There were some positive comments on RefCam as well, to be fair, of the coverage of that game. Interesting, there were 2 or 3 ball over the line calls, which were all correct. So praise for some assistant referees. Barnsley 1, Shrewsbury 2. Stuart Atwell was in the middle. The first goal to Shrewsbury there was a bit of a hairline one, but it was over the line. It always seems to happen to him, doesn't it?
I bet he was worrying himself when the assistant's flag's gone up. I hope it's not gone wide or it has gone over the line. But as I say, you know, you go back to that day. I mean, you know, you go by the assistant referees there to help you, and if your assistant referee's flagging like that and saying it's a goal, then you have to go with your assistant referee, and it looks like they've got this one right.
Yes,
so good.
Absolutely. Replay showed that it was absolutely spot on. I was at Scunthorpe and Blackpool remarkably winning at that first away win for 497 days it was. Tony Harrington was in charge there, just 3 years on the list. I thought he did fairly well, but I was mostly struck by Lisa Rashid on the line, because I thought she had a really, really good game, and we want to encourage more female officials. And she also had a part in the winning goal, because, again, it was...
Well, she knocked it in.
Yeah, it was an assist anyway, from an assistant referee. It was just over the line. It was just over the line, and she was racing back to the... She was clear.
She made the call?
Yeah, well, referee quickly looked at her to be sure, and she was on her way back to the halfway.
Great stuff.
Well, you said it. She's, you know, she's right in line with it, and that's what you've got to be. You know, her fitness was good. She's there. She's reading it, and she's there, and bang, and away you go. Excellent, excellent.
One thing I'd like to raise with you, a technical point in this game. I thought Tony Harrington was a bit adrift sometimes of incidents, but overall calm, sort of unruffled control. But it's a different game. These were 2 direct teams. The ball's pinging from one end to the other, not like in the Premier League. It's a different technique.
Yeah, it is, and at that level, you've got to try and you've got to read the play and you've got to anticipate the play. And sometimes that is difficult. But if you can do that at that level, then you 9 times out of 10 you've got yourself in the right position. As long as you're there for that dropping zone, that the 9v5 and those sort of things. But the main thing is reading the play and anticipating play. So what you're doing is then before the ball's played, you know that where it's going to
taking position,
where the ball's going to happen. You're already on your way to that position. So.
Well, I think he was concentrating on not finding himself marooned at one end by overreacting, because he would know that very quickly it's going to come back to my end again. So he was somewhere in the middle.
It'll have worked well for his fitness, that's for sure. Yeah. Up and down.
If he tried to keep right on top of every ball in the game like that, box-to-box midfielder.
It's like getting a neck ache, isn't it? You're like in tennis.
Right, when we return for part 2, we'll be talking, oh my goodness, there was an amazing women's game in South America between Boca Juniors and River Plate. It's had a lot of hits on YouTube. Maybe before you watch part 2, just check that. There's about a minute and a half of highlights of this extraordinary game. Amazing there wasn't more action by the referee. We'll talk about some of the challenges and this green card idea in Italy. So rejoin us for all of that.